part 56, and this is about the Cincinnati Bengals of 1988. The 1988 Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this team definitely should have won the championship in '88. I remember this team. Definitely remember the Super Bowl that they played in and watched it when they lost to San Francisco 49ers. That was in '89. I remember that. And they lost 20-16. And that was a tough loss for the Bengals. And at that time, it was the second time during that decade of the '80s that they met the 49ers. And they lost twice to them. '81 they lost, and they lost in '88 season to the eventual champion San Francisco 49ers. Now, what I'm going to do is go over the overall aspect of this team, who stood out, who they beat to get to the Super Bowl, what went wrong in the Super Bowl, things of that nature. So, they was coming off a 1987 disappointing season of Bengals, but the following year, 1988, they tied for the best record in the NFL in 1988, secured a home field advantage throughout the playoffs, won the AFC Championship, and appeared in Super Bowl 23. They went 8-0 at home in 1988. On the road, they were 4-4. And actually, this 1988 Bengals team of Cincinnati were featured in the NFL film series The Missing Rings, being included as one of the 5 best teams in NFL history not to have won the Super Bowl. So that's why it's apropos to talk about the 1988 Cincinnati Bengals. They were 4-11 in '87. Now, Boomer Esiason was the quarterback, Sam White was the coach. 1988, Boomer Esiason ended up having the best season of his career and got to the Super Bowl 23. He threw for 3,572 yards, 28 touchdown passes, only 14 interceptions. He rushed 248 yards, scoring a touchdown, 43 carries. Esiason's performance made him the top-rated quarterback in the league with a 97.4 passer rating and earned him the NFL Most Valuable Player award. Cincinnati had a number of offensive weapons, boasting 6 Pro Bowl selections. Wide receiver Eddie Brown was the top receiver on his team. He had 54 catches for 1,273 yards and 9 touchdowns, setting franchise records for most receiving yards in the season, and the highest per catch average in the season was 24 yards per catch, and most receiving yards in a single game was 216 yards against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wide receiver Tim McGee and Pro Bowl tight end Rodney Foreman were also major threats because they combined for 75 receptions, 1,213 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Rookie fullback Ickey Woods, yes, I remember him very well doing that Ickey Shuffle dance. I remember that. Cincinnati's top rusher with 1,066 yards and 15 touchdowns, while also catching 21 passes for 199 yards. Woods gained a lot of media attention with his Ickey Shuffle, a dance routine he did in the end zone to celebrate his touchdowns. Multi-talented running back James Brooks was also a key contributor, gaining a total of 1,218 combined rushing and receiving yards and 14 touchdowns. So look at the offensive line of the Bengals. Obviously had the great Anthony Munoz, who was the NFL Offensive Lineman of the Year for the 3rd time in his career. So his team was very, very talented on the offensive line, with right guard Max Montoya and left tackle Anthony Munoz. He was in his 8th Pro Bowl for 8 consecutive season. Anthony Munoz. Now the Bengals offense were pioneers because they used the hurry-up offense that they perfected in 1988, making it difficult for defenders to respond to plays and make proper substitutions. So these weapons, Cincinnati's offense led the NFL in scoring 448 points. They led the league in rushing yards for 2010. Cincinnati's offense led the NFL in total yards with 6,302. Now defensively, they were very solid, not great. They were 17th in the league. On defense, allowed 5,556 yards and 329 points during this regular season. Cincinnati had a big-time defensive line led by Pro Bowl defensive tackle Tim Conrad, along with lineman Jim Scout, who had 9.5 sacks. David Grant 5 sacks, Jason Buck 6 sacks. Pro Bowl in the secondary were Eric Thomas, defensive backs, David Fulcher, David Fulcher combined for 12 interceptions. They ended up with a 12-4 record in the AFC Central Division. So they were a big time team. They did their thing, and one of their biggest wins was Week 14 against the Buffalo Bills. That's the team that they had to play in the championship game. And Week 14, the Bengals beat the Buffalo Bills 35-21. At that time, handing the Buffalo Bills only their second loss of the season at the time. And the Bills had come into the game with 11-1 record and an overall best record in the NFL. So that was a preview of what was going to come in a championship game between these two teams. In the season's final week, the Bengals came from behind to beat the defending Super Bowl champs Washington Redskins 2017 in overtime to clinch the AFC Central and the number 1 seed in the AFC. The game was won on a Jim Breach field goal. Okay, Cincinnati beat the Seattle Seahawks by a score of 21-13 to advance to the championship game. And then they played in the championship game, obviously, the Buffalo Bills. AFC Championship game. Cincinnati Bengals beat the Buffalo Bills 21-10. Now, before the game began, a controversy arose over Cincinnati's no-huddle offense. Coach at the time, the Bills, Mark Levy, criticized the strategy as against the rules, and it was done with intent to deceive. There was a suggestion that the Bills might counter this by stimulating injuries in order to stop the clock. The Seahawks were alleged to have done Mr. Bengals. So Levy stated that the Bengals Bills would not do so. The NFL stayed beforehand that neither action would result in a penalty. Prior to the game, both Levy and Cincinnati coach Sam Weiss told reporters that they did not believe that the other would behave unethically. Now, in this game, the Bengals forced 3 interceptions, only allowing 45 rushing yards and 136 yards passing, while their offense held the ball for 39 minutes and 29 seconds. Bills starting running back Donald Thomas was held to just 6 yards on 4 carries. Jim Kelly, the quarterback of the Bills, only completed 14 of 30 passes for 161 yards and a touchdown with 3 interceptions. Bills had only 10 first downs, one more than the AFC Championship record for the fewest ever, and failed to convert any of the third down conversion attempts, which was 10. The Bengals did not get much of a performance from NFL MVP Homer Esiason. He only had 94 yards passing, only on 11 of 20 passes, with a touchdown and 2 interceptions, but their running game made a difference. They gained 175 yards on the ground, 102 yards and 2 touchdowns coming from fullback Ickey Woods. So Buffalo started their first drive on a 46-yard line. It ended with an interception by Bengals quarterback Lewis Phillips. The next play, Esiason's 29-yard run moved the team into scoring range. They also came up empty when Esiason's pass was intercepted by Bills linebacker Ray Bentley. Later on, Cincinnati took a 7-0 lead in the first quarter with after defensive back Eric Thomas' 26-yard interception return to the Bills' 4-yard line, set up a Ickey Woods 1-yard touchdown run. However, a 15-yard unnecessary rush from this penalty against running back Stanley Woodson at the touchdown was a success in the kickoff. 1 6 personal fouls in the game, 2 by the Bengals and 4 by the Bills after the touchdown was a success on the ensuing kickoff. So Buffalo ended up getting good field position with Ryan Harmon's 22-yard return to the 14-yard line. So Kelly subsequently led the Bills back before completions, starting with a pair of throws to receiver Andre Reed for gains of 9 and 19 yards, and then hooking up with Tremaine Johnson for a 22-yard gain to the Bengals' 9-yard line. So the next play, Kelly found Reed in the right corner of the end zone for a touchdown pass to tie the game. So Buffalo, following the punt, drove to the Bengals' 26-yard line, but Scott Norwood missed his 43-yard field goal attempt. The Bengals then took over and stormed down the field on an 11-play, 74-yard drive, including a 16-yard run by Woods, scoring a decisive 10-yard touchdown pass to running back James Brooks. Bills defensive back Mark Kelso intercepted a pass from Esiason and turned it 25 yards to the Bengals' 29-yard line, setting up a 39-yard field goal by Norwood to cut the Bills' deficit to 14-10 by halftime. The Bengals took over the game in the second half, forcing Buffalo to start all of their drives from inside the 20, their own 23-yard line, as they held the ball for only 9:04 to only 53 yards, 2 field downs, and no points on their first 3 drives of the second half. The Bills totaled -12 yards. Midway through the third quarter, Cincinnati punter Lee Johnson pinned the Bills at their own 1-yard line with a 58-yard kick. Buffalo then went 3 and out. Bengals receiver Ira Hillary returned John Kidd's 50-yard punt 15 yards to the Bills' 40. 3 plays into their ensuing drive, Cincinnati faced 4th down and 4. Wilson ran 6 yards for a first down and a fake punt, enabling the Bengals to keep drive for a clutch score. Bills defensive back Derek Burrows was ejected from the game for striking receiver Tim McGee in his head, turning what would have been a 3rd and goal from the 8 to the 1st and goal from the 4-yard line. Cincinnati ended up scoring with Woods' 1-yard touchdown run the first play of the fourth quarter. Houston lead to 21-10. The Bills later managed to drive to the Bengals' 18-yard line, and safety David Fulcher picked off a desperate 4th down pass from Kelly in the end zone. The Bills would not lose another game to the Bengals until Week 4 of the 2011 NFL season. Now let's get into Super Bowl 23. That's what it was about. This is a game that the Bengals should have won. And the 49ers wasn't as good as they usually were in the past, but they made it to the Super Bowl anyhow. And obviously they beat the Bengals 2016 for the 3rd Super Bowl during that decade. Bill Walsh coached that team. Jerry Rice was the MVP. It was the second meeting between these two teams in this decade, and it was their first meeting 7 years earlier. Obviously at that time in Super Bowl, I think Super Bowl 16, I believe. Thank you, guys. So anyway, yeah, the 49ers were only 10-6. So this game was best remembered, obviously, on the game-winning drive in the fourth quarter. San Francisco was losing 16-13 with 3:10 to go on the clock. On the 8-yard line, he marched 92 yards down the field in under 3 minutes. Then they scored the winning touchdown on the Joe Montana pass to John Taylor with just 34 seconds left in the game. The game was tight throughout. The teams combined for 5 field goals, battled to 3-3 score by the end of the second quarter. The first halftime tie in Super Bowl history. The only touchdown by Cincinnati was a 93-yard kickoff return by Stanford Jennings in the third quarter. It was quickly answered by a 4-play, 85-yard drive that ended with San Francisco wide receiver Jerry Rice's 14-yard touchdown reception. Jerry Rice, the Super Bowl MVP for a reason, he had caught 11 passes for a Super Bowl record 215 yards and a touchdown, while also rushing once for 5 yards. That was the issue, man. Like, they could not score offensive touchdown. Everything was just field goals. And again, when you're up 16-13, the defense got to do their job. And they didn't do their job to prevent the Niners from winning the game. And that's the thing about it. So you're a Bengals fan, you're looking at missed opportunities where you could have scored touchdowns. You're selling for field goals. You're doing that. You only scored 1 touchdown on a kickoff return. That's the only touchdown they scored. Also, the Super Bowl was the first Super Bowl ever to go 3 quarters without either team scoring a touchdown. Amazing. They were up 13-6. Bengals. So they had their chances. Just that they did not do enough to score touchdowns in the red zone. That's all that goes down to. The self-explanatory of the situation was that. Obviously, this is also a matchup, the Super Bowl, where Montana was leading the drive 92 yards on that drive to win the game. He said, famously, the quote, "Hey, is it that John Kennedy?" He did that to calm his teammates down. Like, he's looking at, "Hey, that's John Kennedy." That's the Joe Cool reputation that was enhanced. He was like, "Hey, that's John Kennedy." So he just went down the field and did what they had to do, like they always did during that time, and they was able to win the Super Bowl. Joe Montana was 23 out of 36, 357 yards, threw 2 touchdowns, gained 14 yards. Roger Craig finished with 71 yards rushing, 8 catches caught by Craig for 101 receiving yards. He was the first running back in Super Bowl history to gain 100 receiving yards. So he finished the game with a Super Bowl record 56 punt return yards. His 18.7 yards per return was also the highest average in Super Bowl history. Linebacker Charles Haley had 6 tackles and 2 sacks. Seisel had a sore arm. He was limited to 11 of 25 passes for 144 yards and interception. Didn't play particularly well. The top receiver Chris Collinsworth retired after this game when he had 3 catches for 40 yards. The 49ers became the 6th team to win the Super Bowl over a team with a better regular season record. The 49ers also became the first team since the NFL went to its 16-game schedule in 1978 to win the Super Bowl after winning only 10 games during the regular season. Their 6 regular season losses were tied for the most ever by a Super Bowl champion until the New York Giants in 2011 won Super Bowl 46 with a 9-7 record. So, yeah, it shows you, man, that 49 team was not, a typical vintage team. You know what I'm saying? I remember that year, man. 88, I was definitely watching, professional NFL football at that age. I was like 9 at that time, so I was familiar with that year in 88. I was definitely was watching a lot of NFL football, maybe some college football, but definitely the National Football League, I was definitely in tune to the NFL. Yeah, the 49ers wasn't that good, man. They wasn't that good. I thought the Bengals was going to win. I rooted for them because I was a Giants fan at the time. Still am to this day. I did not want to see the 49ers win that Super Bowl against Cincinnati. I definitely remember that Super Bowl very well. And that's it. That's all needs to be said about that. This is part 56 of professional sports teams that didn't win the championship. Part 56. I just talked about 1988 Cincinnati Bengals. Please subscribe to the channel. Comment, like whatever you like about this video, this channel in general. Do a video of this magnitude tomorrow. Until then, talk to you.